What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday here in Shela, Guatemala. Last couple of days, it's been raining. The last couple of days, it's been pretty windy and pretty chilly out. I want to whine for a few minutes and talk about the wind chill factor in Shela, Guatemala. Uh, Feels like, I don't know, 65, 50. But without all the wind, I think it would be quite a bit warmer. Now, all jokes aside, it's not that cold here, but at night when the wind gets to blowing, like it has in the last couple of days, it feels kind of chilly. I'm thankful for those wool blankets. Anyways, tonight I want to talk about what's going on in Canada. For the viewers who don't know, not the president, not the premier, the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, he introduced, I don't know how they do it there. I'm not familiar with the rule of law or the lack thereof. The reason I'm talking about it is because Trudeau just introduced some kind of law or legislation or something that now he can freeze and or take people's bank accounts without a court order. That's my very, very limited understanding. My reaction is now, what are Canadians going to do? Because now Canada, more and more than ever, is like the United States regarding their asset forfeiture law. Apparently, from my understanding, if Canada views you as like a terrorist or a threat to the establishment, they can shut off your bank account. What's been going on in the media, at least my understanding in Canada, the media is labeling anyone who's like a freedom fighter or a freedom type person as a threat to the establishment. What I'm getting at is I'm talking about what's going on or what was going on, and maybe is still going on, is the truckers' revolt or the truckers parking, I think in Ottawa. I might be wrong. I said yesterday Ottawa. I think it's Ottawa. I'm not sure. But the truckers were, I think, in Ottawa, parking their trucks and walking away and protesting. The Canadian media has basically labeled them like terrorists or right-wing racist or other bad names like that. And from what I saw, nothing could be further from the truth. Their protesting has nothing to do with their views on race or anything like that. They're trying to label them as kind of racist people, which is really bizarre since there's a lot of immigrants in Canada. A lot of immigrants do those jobs. It's the same in the United States. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but that's beyond the scope of this video. But in general, a lot of the truckers are immigrants. And from watching social media, I was watching Bitcoin Beach. I didn't realize he was Canadian. I think he's a Canadian. Not the place, but the dude. He lives in Bitcoin Beach, wherever that is, in El Salvador. Not sure if that's in Tunco or I think it's a little further away from there. Anyways, he was talking about Canadians fleeing Canada or encourage Canadians to leave for El Salvador. I'm just curious, like, it seems to me Canadians are now kind of in a similar boat as Americans in that a lot of what's going on in the States is now going to Canada. If you protest money printing and the high cost of living, or if you protest your lack of freedom and liberties because the government shut down the economy, you will be labeled a Nazi or a racist. And now looks like you can have your bank account shut down or taken in the form of asset forfeiture. I'm not clear on that. If they would just take some of your account or completely shut your account off. But to me, it reminds me of the United States, of our asset forfeiture laws, where the government can accuse you of a crime, but they don't have to prove it in a court of law. They can take away your money. Also in the United States, the U.S. government can accuse you of owing more than $50,000 in tax and shut off your passport. I'm mentioning this because both Canada and the U.S., and even now more and more you're hearing China say this, governments more and more want to have the right to rescind or take away your passport, whether you live overseas or not. They just, anytime they want to shut it off, they can shut it off. What I'm hearing from the news outlets is that they want to shut off, the establishment, want to make laws to shut off your passport if you are saying or doing anything that pisses them off or they don't agree with. And what a cluster heck that would be. I don't have the answers to all these questions, but I think I know where this is all going. I think this is why a lot of people are dropping out of society. I just wonder myself how many people who would be more productive have stopped and now make a basic income and the minimal amount of income and just live wherever they want to live because they don't really think we're living in these high tax countries or high tax states is really worth it anymore. I saw on who is it? Nomad Capitalist. I think it is Nomad Capitalist. I might be wrong. He was just pointing out how all these first world countries are doing very, very authoritarian things that Nazi Germany did. And no one seems to, well, the mainstream media doesn't seem to put two and two together and talk about it. And if you put two and two together and talk about it, you're labeled a racist or something, or a Nazi or some kind of terrorist. So I just wonder how many people who've gotten tired of all that, decided to leave, go from a low tax state or a high tax state to a low cost state, and then go from a high cost of living or high tax state or country to a low cost of living country and a low tax country. I've been thinking more and more about that because, frankly, I would have never thought this in my lifetime. When I always think of perpetual tourists or people living that kind of lifestyle, I always thought of that as being like a minority. Lately, I've noticed more and more young people are becoming what they call digital nomads, which is kind of like the perpetual tourist concept. Or a lot of it is, not all of it, but a lot of it is living in one country, earning an income in another country, or having your assets in other countries. Which brings me to this. Again, I don't have all the answers, but what this is doing, what Canada is doing, or the Prime Minister Trudeau is doing, I believe he's accelerating the trend of migration from places where people don't want to live to where they do want to live. I think he's accelerating the trend towards people putting their assets in places that governments can't grab them, like Bitcoin, like gold coins, like real estate in other countries, like bank accounts in other countries, like an LLC in the United States. If you're in Canada, you can set that up real easy. Or setting up a Society Anonyma in Latin America, that's really easy to do. And depending on your needs, that can be mostly done or all done anonymously. It depends on your situation. How much money you want to pay, and even who you know, and things like that. I mean, there's How to Be Invisible, JJ Luna. He has a competitor in that. There's a young guy, I just can't think of his name. He basically talks about how to disappear off the face of the planet, how to set up an LLC in the United States very, very anonymously. Most of the stuff on LLCs online is not really accurate, or is accurate technically speaking, but is not accurate in explaining how to set up or properly set up an LLC with Articles of Confederation, I think it is, or whatever it is, how to set it up with a nominee if you so desire. In the last 2 or 3 years, if you set up a society, or if you set up an LLC in the United States and you sell it, you have to change the banking on that so it can't be anonymous like it used to be. But you can still set it up with an accountant holding the bank account, and you're not breaking any laws or rules. For those who think I'm full of BS, which is, you can do that here in Latin America too. Pretty much, well, not anywhere, but in most places you can do that. So the laws are changing as regarding LLCs, but one thing in the U.S., LLCs are now more tax friendly to low to no tax, depending on what your needs are. Anyways, I mentioned all this because what we're seeing in Canada is getting pretty authoritarian. Now, we need to wait and see what actually happens with this law, or how they're going to interpret it, what they're going to do. But it's really good advertisement for people who really think they live in a democracy. I mean, I'm not big on democracy, but for people who believe in that kind of thing, they're now starting to get red pilled that their democracy doesn't mean shit when it comes to their money. The governments can take away your credit, the money in your bank account, your pension funds, anything with asset forfeiture laws. And I'm not even talking about inflation wiping out the value of your assets, but just what they can do legally where you don't really have much recourse. Sometimes I get a little pushback on like taxes and stuff in the US, but the US government doesn't have to prove you actually owe any tax. You just have to suggest it before they take away your passport or make your life miserable. So some people misinterpret what I'm saying. Like, you can be all paid up and not owe any money, and the US government can dispute whatever you do. And if they seize your assets, you don't have any money to hire a lawyer to protect yourself, and you're basically SOL. I've actually met a few taxpayers down here in Guatemala, as a matter of fact, who went through all that, and then it turns out they didn't owe any money, but that's neither here nor there because all their assets were seized anyways. They won their tax case. They didn't get their money back. They didn't do anything wrong. It was just a misunderstanding. But most people won't believe these things until it actually happens to them or one of their friends or someone they trust. So I'm just kind of curious with what's going on in Canada, what viewers think of that. Well, I don't think it's going to cause an exodus out of Canada, but it could cause a lot of the more productive people, like being down here. I've met, well, at one of the conferences I went to, I met a Canadian. He at least years ago, he was planning on moving down here, but at least he was putting infrastructure down here as far as financial infrastructure to get out of the Canadian sphere of influence as far as his money goes. But he was a real estate, I want to say speculator, but he bought and sold and fixed up real estate and sold it at a commercial level. And he just told me, we were just sitting down talking about it, how much rules and regulation and taxes involved in Canada. And it was nothing like I thought. It was way, way more regulated and taxed than what I'm familiar with in the United States. What I'm thinking about is, at least regarding Canada, I think it could be, I'm not saying it will be, but it could be like an inflection point maybe, where more and more people rethink their loyalties to their countries they were born in. You're going to probably see more and more strategies to live outside their country, whatever country of birth you live in. You might not think about living your whole life in one country anymore. I think that's kind of going to be more and more the trend. I think people are getting more and more disillusioned with their democracies. Right now, I don't think there's any political solution or any obvious solution people are going to vote for that's going to fix anything. So what I see happening is more and more of people moving out of whatever political jurisdiction they're in to one that's more amenable to their lifestyle choices and cost of living, whatever tax they wish to pay or not pay, and being all legal like. That's another thing. Seems like most first world countries, people seem more beaten down than normal or than what I've ever remember. And it's just killing people's spirits to make money, to be entrepreneurial, to get ahead in life. So even though I might be wrong in the percentages of people leaving first world countries, I just see this trend where more and more people are going to leave. Or if they live in the States, they're going to have a more nomadic lifestyle. They'll go to the States to tend to their investments or to work a job or something for a little while to earn some capital, to maybe manage some real estate investments or other things like that. Then spend the rest of their time in other countries, building up businesses in other countries until they make the full transition. In fact, one of my favorite YouTubers that doesn't really do a lot of YouTubes, Jason Stapleton. He's a friend and associate of, who is it? Oh, it's not Michael Malice, but they're friends too. But no, I can't think of him right offhand. But Jason Stapleton's making more and more videos on how he left California for Arizona, how he and his wife are making more and more trips outside the United States, how he's finding out that really a lot of the stuff people talk about, how dangerous it is to live in Latin America, all the disadvantages and all that, most of that's nonsense, is not really true. There's not like a lot of crime. There's not a lot of crime like people think. In fact, if you live a fairly middle-class lifestyle in most places in Latin America, there's not very much crime at all. Now that's changing, with the times and all that. But what I mean by that is there's not a lot of random crime. And like Jason said on a lot of his podcasts, people are going all over the world, like the Pacific, Asia, Latin America, and things really aren't bad like people think. They're actually pretty mellow. And as people figure that out, you're just going to see more and more people make that lifestyle choice and move to where they're treated best. Anyways, this video's gone on long enough. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about what's going on in Canada too. Thanks. Good night.